Three reasons why cells need to divide. Early in the history of biology, scientists believed cells arose spontaneously. With the development of the cell theory, people finally realized that only cells can beget other cells. In fact, two categories that define something as living or not are growth and reproduction, both of which cell division accomplishes. Cell division, also called mitosis, occurs in all living things. As living things grow, some cells die or become damaged and need replacements. Some single-celled organisms use a type of mitosis as their only form of reproduction. In multicellular organisms, cell division allows individuals to grow and change by expanding the number of total cells. So the first reason that cells divide we're going to look into is cellular reproduction. But first, let's talk about what mitosis is. Mitosis is when cells divide. Mitosis only takes up a small portion of the cell cycle. Cell division consists of 5 phases. During interphase, which comprises a majority of the cell cycle, the cell does not accomplish much of anything except to duplicate its genetic material, or DNA. Prophase sees the chromosomes thickening and moving to the opposite ends of the cell. The chromosomes make a line down the middle of the cell during metaphase. Anaphase takes place when the chromosomes separate while the cell pinches in the middle. Telophase announces the end of mitosis, where the nuclear envelope reforms around the thinning chromosomes and the two daughter cells completely separate. So there are the phases of mitosis. So one of the reasons that cells need to divide is for reproduction. In more primitive life forms, cell division serves as a means of reproduction. Cell division for the purpose of reproduction, called binary fission, occurs in organisms that have not evolved sexual reproduction or have no use for sex. Binary fission evolved relatively early in the evolutionary scheme of life. Bacteria, one of the earliest forms of life on Earth, employ binary fission because they cannot spare the extra energy needed to find mates, make sex cells, or look after offspring. Bacteria multiply many times to form colonies of organisms that genetically resemble each other. Because all individuals are clones of one another, and adaptation occurs slowly, any potential changes to the environment can eradicate or erase, get rid of, or extinct the entire colony. Cellular growth is another reason for cell division. Isn't that a wonderful picture of an embryo? Organisms grow either by augmenting cell size, which means like changing cell size, or increasing in cell number. While multicellular organisms is in its early stage of development, cells divide at accelerated rates to increase the size of the organism. Cells continue to divide to increase organism size until the organism reaches adulthood. At this point, many cells, such as nerve or heart muscle cells, no longer possess the ability to divide. Growth in these cells occurs only as a result of normal or pathological increases in cell size. So another reason for cells to divide is to repair. We have here an injury. When injury occurs to tissues, the injury site becomes a hotbed of activity. Substances called growth factors present in the extracurricular matrix and the structures supporting cells. They stimulate tissue repair. The ECM contains materials such as water, minerals, and compounds needed to mend wounds. With minor injuries, the ECM allows the tissue to regenerate itself through mitosis with no adverse consequences. With major lesions, regeneration does not ensue, and fibrosis or scarring occurs instead. So, cell division is actually controlled, and it usually limits itself, namely at certain checkpoints during the cell cycle. The majority of cells in the human body exist at the G0 stage of interphase, which denotes the state of non-dividing cells. A cell will continue into the mitotic cycle if it receives a signal at the G1 checkpoint telling it to divide. Chemicals serve as these signals, and the cell cycle proceeds. Okay, I'm going to skip to here. When injury occurs, platelets, which are clotting factors, they produce platelet-derived growth factors that cause cells, called fibroblasts, to divide and promote healing. Cells typically stop dividing once they come into contact with other cells or form an attachment to the ECM. That's it for this piece of reading today.